And we are tracking a big story which is emanating from the Supreme Court. During Mudgal hearing, the Supreme Court has passed scathing, strong observations. The Supreme Court has said that cricket in India is like a religion and people in India are passionate lot about it. The Supreme Court further observed that you are killing the game. On the benefit of doubt argument, the court says that rather than giving it any individual, it should go to the game. Court asked if BCCI's president owns a team in IPL, will there not be a clash of interest? Scathing observations coming in from the Supreme Court. The question is, will they be followed up with strong orders? Well, that will only depend on evidence which is at hand at this point of time. But the observations extremely scathing on the entire functioning of the BCCI and how it has been operating with impunity for years. I'd like to quickly cut across first to Ashish Merishi, my colleague stationed right outside the Supreme Court, getting us up to speed with this latest news break and the observations emanating, the hearing still going on right now. I'd also like to cut across to our consulting editor, Boria Mazumdar, giving us perspective on what these observations could actually mean for Mr. N. Srinivasan and most importantly for BCCI. I'd like to cut across to Ashish first. Ashish, quickly take us through these observations.
Well, in fact, Preeti, if you see the way the Supreme Court has come out with its observations today, it has actually, the entire observations, it puts not only the BCCI in question, but it also questions the role of N. Srinivasan. It is actually a bad day for Srinivasan because the way Supreme Court has said, the Supreme Court said that there is a conflict of interest. Don't you see a conflict of interest? Because the BCCI president is actually the owner of an IPL team. And they said that how is it that, when there is something happening in IPL, does the BCCI president is he only a mute spectator? Now these kind of observations have come. Now all the other observations, if you see the Supreme Court said that, with the kind of high flyers, the kind of big people involved, the influential people involved, he said it seems it's like a mutual benefit society. Now if these kind of harsh words, harsh observations are coming from the Supreme Court, certainly it has reduced the it is not only reduced, it has brought down the image of BCCI, which was already in question.
Do stay on with me, Ashish. The hearing's still going on, lots emanating from the Supreme Court. We'll keep cutting across to Ashish. For a brief while, we're going to immediately bring in our consulting editor, Boria Mazumdar, who's giving us perspective on what it could actually mean. Boria, scathing observations there, where the Supreme Court taking an extremely dim view of the BCCI. Whether or not these observations are followed with equally scathing orders, only evidence at hand will decide that. But as of now, the BCCI clearly in a lot of trouble. They would have to force to get their house in order.
Absolutely, Preeti. I mean, the BCCI had an opportunity over the last 7 days to cleanse the mess. What they did, they said Srinivasan is not guilty, Sundaraman is not guilty, CSK should not be banned, Rajasthan Royals should not be banned, everything's hunky-dory. That's what basically the message came out of the Emergent Working Committee meeting of the BCCI in Chennai. I mean, this time round, it's not the media, it's not the cricket fan, it's the Supreme Court of this country that's telling the BCCI you're killing the game. And what I'm getting from the Supreme Court right now is that the petitioner's lawyer has asked for the Supreme Court, can they name the two players, number 2 and number 3? While the court has said that they cannot name the players, they have said that their teams can be revealed. Now, if these teams are revealed, automatically it will be a matter of public conjecture who these people are. Because, it will be easy to conjecture who they are. And once again, a can of worms will be opened up. If the teams of individual 2 and individual 3 are revealed, and Nalini Chidambaram arguing for the petitioners has just said that, while the report says Narayan Swamy Srinivasan did not scuttle the probe, clearly, by calling Gurunath Mayapati was a case of a cover-up. So this one, the BCCI will find very difficult to duck. But the question is, the BCCI is not an abstraction, Preeti.
Yes. All right. Boria, we're having a problem with your audio link. Boria, we're having a problem with your audio link. We're going to just sort that out and come right back to you. Boria Mazumdar, consulting editor, giving us perspective on also the latest emanating from the Supreme Court, which he just pointed out that the petitioner did ask the court to reveal the names of player number 2 and player number 3. What else is taking place right now in court? I want to cut across directly to Ashish Merishi, my colleague standing by, getting us the minute-to-minute update coming in from the Supreme Court. We also have Shivani, my colleague, who's right now inside the Supreme Court, relaying information to Ashish. Ashish, give us the latest on what the petitioner has asked of the Supreme Court concerning player number 2 and player number 3 that Boria was pointing out to.
Well, that's in fact, that is the argument. That is the issue that has been, in the highlights in the last couple of days. But
yes.
if you remember, Preeti, this is what when the report came out. Though it does not name, but people know who maybe these
yes.
players are. But yes, the petitioner has asked the Supreme Court that they should name it as of now. But as of now, there is nothing from the Supreme Court. Whether they are going to name player number 2 and number 3.
Ashish, stay with me. Do stay with me. We are getting in the latest from Shivani, who's right now inside the Supreme Court. She's just come out to give us the latest information. It's over to you, Shivani. What's taking place inside the court right now?
The major development, Preeti, that has happened right now is that the charge of cover-up against N. Srinivasan has been brought up again by the petitioners once again. So what Nalini Chidambaram, the petitioner's lawyer, is arguing that while this report has said that Srinivasan did not try to scuttle the Mudgal probe panel, first report that it submitted before being formed, the panel was formulated again to investigate in the 13 names. The report had said very clearly that India Cements, Dhoni and Srinivasan had given in their deposition that Mayappan is just a cricket enthusiast, but that has been found to be incorrect. So on the basis of that first report, the charge of cover-up still stands. That is the big development that has happened. Petitioners arguing that whatever the final report now has said, the second report only says that Srinivasan did not try to scuttle the Mudgal probe panel, but the first report still stands. The operative part being that the petitioners are arguing that the first report cannot be erased because of this and together. They are not exclusive of each other. And in the first report, it was clearly mentioned that Dhoni, India Cements, and Srinivasan, as the MD of India Cements, had deposed in front of the Mudgal panel saying that Mayappan was not a team official, but the panel has found him to be a team official. So that in itself is a cover-up. That's the charge that has been brought up against N. Srinivasan. I'll also just quickly want to tell you that the petitioners asked for individuals 2 and 3 in names because they are related to Mayappan and Srinivasan, but the court decided that they will not reveal names. They will perhaps reveal the teams that they play for. And if they indeed come out to be players from Chennai Super Kings, then the petitioners can form their arguments on the basis of that knowledge, but they have refused to reveal names as of now. But overall, extremely damning observations that the court has made today on the conflict of interest case. The court itself saying that how can the president own a team? Is that not incorrect? While the BCCI lawyers argue that it's very well provided within the laws, but the observation itself from the court was quite damning. It even went on to say that how can you distinguish between the IPL and the BCCI? It's a body that has been made by the BCCI itself. And the IPL governing council was made by the BCCI, so it's not an independent body at all. It comes under the BCCI, leading to the question of conflict of interest. It has gone so far to say that BCCI and Srinivasan cannot assume that they are in the clear because the inferences that the court makes on the basis of this report is not something they can control, very importantly. So just Srinivasan claiming that he's got a clean chit, so as to say from the report is not enough. The court making it very clear, they infer from the report is their business and that the BCCI cannot control.
All right, Shivani, getting us up to speed with what is going on right now inside the court. The hearing still on. My colleague Shivani getting us the latest updates there. Shivani, before we let you go back inside the Supreme Court today, if you can give us the top points that have emerged once again for the benefit of our viewers from the Supreme Court in terms of observations.
First, very, very big point is the conflict of interest issue being raised by the court itself. It was not raised by the petitioners. When the BCCI lawyers were arguing that Srinivasan is in the free and he should be allowed to go ahead with his business, the court itself raised the issue that is it not incorrect or unfair that the president of the BCCI itself owns a team? The BCCI, of course, argued that it's very well provided within its bylaws, but the court said that, the game is more important, and it even asked the BCCI's lawyers, do you want to sit over the liquidation of the sport, the benefit of the doubt of the sport? And he said that it is the BCCI's responsibility to ensure that strict action is taken and that if a match is fixed, then nobody will go to watch that match. So they should ensure that there is no fixing. And it even said that the BCCI will have to act on the report. It is not a favor that they will do to anyone. The BCCI was trying to argue that BCCI has its own laws and they will make an internal committee or its working committee will decide on what to do after this report. But that clearly did not go down very well. The court said that, see, what the report says is not final. That's just prima facie complaint. Court decides to do or what it infers from the report clearly is its business, and the BCCI will have to abide by it. Second major important point, that the court refused to reveal the names of the individuals that are the players. And the third most important point is that the charge of cover-up, Nalini Chidambaram, who's the petitioner's lawyer, has distinguished it from the cover-up, that is the scuttling of the probe that is mentioned in the final Mudgal report. She says that yes, Srinivasan did not try to scuttle the Mudgal probe panel, but the first report by the panel, when it submitted a sealed envelope as well, and then therefore was formed an SIT to investigate further on that matter, that first report stands alone, stands separate from the second report, and it cannot be erased. In that first report, it was clearly established that Gurunath Mayappan was a team official, while Dhoni, who's the India Cement vice president, who's the Indian cricket team captain, and also the captain of the Chennai Super Kings, and the MD of the India Cements, N. Srinivasan, they claimed that he was just an enthusiast. She even brought up the press conference in which N. Srinivasan, in full public view, had said that Mayappan is just a cricket enthusiast. What the argument was made by the BCCI lawyers was...
All right. We seem to have lost Shivani's audio. She's right outside the Supreme Court. There is a problem where connectivity is concerned. We're going to try and re-establish that. But big scathing observations coming in from the Supreme Court. And if we can just encapsulate that for our viewers. Conflict of interest issue being raised where Mr. N. Srinivasan, the former president in exile of the BCCI, is concerned. Number two, the entire functioning of the BCCI. The Supreme Court taking an extremely dim view on how the BCCI has been conducting itself. Number three, they have refused to reveal the names of the players, essentially player number 2 and player number 3, but the Supreme Court might reveal the teams that these players played for. And 4, a cover-up in place, maybe not for the Mudgal report as petitioned, but also that the cover-up by Mr. N. Srinivasan in the first report, which stands alone, which establishes Gurunath Mayappan as a team member of Chennai Super Kings. Constant coverage on that story. My colleague Shivani right now inside the Supreme Court. Right outside we have Ashish Mehrishi and we have our consulting editor Boria Mazumdar with the latest with that.